Thank you, and good morning. Great to be with you. I think what you will see from my remarks and talk is some of the same facts that have been shared this morning by our other very distinguished panelists, but perhaps with a more of a consumer bent or more of a retail local bent to it, because that's the nature of the business we find ourselves. But let me start by talking about an African proverb that I think best speaks to what's happening in our continent. And it goes, when the music changes, so does the dance. The key question, therefore, for the world is, are we truly listening? The signs of real and lasting change in Africa are all around us, but they can be obscured by the past and by a tendency for a benevolent world to focus on the problems, to the exclusion of the possibilities. I've been a part of Africa all my life, and it's a part of me. Even for me, signs of progress can come in unexpected glimpses. A few years ago, I flew on Kenya Airways from London to Nairobi. I had taken that flight many times in the past. But in the past, when we landed, I always felt the captain should not only ask or only say thank you, but also say good luck. Good luck on how you would cobble together the rest of your journey, as that was always an open question, and running a Pan-African business, getting around the continent, used to be quite challenging. But at particular time, I found myself listening to the flight attendant reading off a list of direct connections: Lagos, Kinshasa, Accra, Maputo, Kigali, Johannesburg, Cairo. As she read the list, it occurred to me I was listening to a continent connecting and coming together. And as I was leaving the airport, I realized something else. I turned on my BlackBerry to send a message, and I hadn't stopped to see if it was actually working. I just assumed it would, and it did work. Those bars that indicated signal strength also indicated market strength. Again, a continent connecting and coming together. They were just two small signs of very significant progress across Africa. They are small additions to a body of evidence that is starting to make a case to the world. This is the time to become part of Africa's story. Africa is indeed an emerging global player. And I say this with some perspective. Coca-Cola saw this story taking shape very early on. We've been a part of Africa since 1928. We live there, we employ there, we sell there, we buy there, we invest there. We're the largest consumer goods company in Africa and one of the largest private employers. Over the last 10 years, we've invested $6 billion in Africa. And over the next 10 years, we'll invest another $12 billion across the continent. And we don't invest that kind of money based on hopeful assumptions. We see the opportunity to repeat our success in places like Brazil, where aggressive investment has created one of our strongest markets in the world. And we're not alone. As Teresa mentioned, one of our largest customers, Walmart, just invested $4 billion to acquire Massmart. UK's Vodafone, India's Bharti Airtel are all battling for share in the telecoms world. Nestle, over the past several years, has built dozens of facilities around the continent, including in the DRC, in the Congo. So the list is growing. It's growing because of the inescapable conclusion from some very impressive numbers. And again, some of these numbers you've heard this morning from Archa and others. But in 2008, Africa had a collective GDP of 1.6 trillion, equal to Brazil and Russia. By 2020, aggregate GDP is expected to be 2.6 trillion. The rate of return on foreign investment is higher than any other developing region. And again, you saw those numbers this morning. The economists and the IMF report that from 2000 to 2010, 6 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies were in sub-Saharan Africa. And between now and 2015, it will be 7 out of the top 10. Acha talked about McKinsey and the work they've done. And again, they've talked about the Africa Alliance and the kind of opportunity they present for potential investors and companies and multinational. But the world sees these facts. They believe these facts, but they may not fully understand these facts. There's an assumption that they are driven primarily by the extractive industries that mine, drill, and harvest, and then take those resources somewhere else to create value. No doubt, Africa's rich resources are an important part of this story. But the resource-centered view of the future ignores another resource. Long-term, the most important resource, the African consumer. Rising incomes allow millions to aspire to things long out of reach. Their aspirations are made possible by three words: access, connection, and collaboration. African consumers want the same things that consumers want the world over. They want to move beyond sustaining life to enjoying it. Better nutrition, appliances, a car, a computer, travel, a better home, and a cold Coca-Cola. Their growing ability to assess those wants is clear in a few figures. Consumer discretionary income will rise 50% over the next 10 years. Already, 1 in every 10 Africans is solvent, able to purchase a variety of consumer goods. Africa has 313 million strong middle class, about 34% of the population, on par with China and India. By 2030, the continent's top 18 cities could have a combined spending power of 1.3 trillion, concentrating wealth and the ability of marketers to reach large numbers of people efficiently. As I experienced coming into Nairobi, the continent is coming together and linking to the rest of the world. The connection is creating the kind of common experience that allows us to create the communities and enter the conversations that are at the heart of the new consumer age. At the center of connection is the mobile phone. And again, we've had a lot of discussions about that this morning. But the figures are quite impressive. The cell phone will transform economies, lives, as devices and access costs continue to drop. A project called Mobile Trends Africa 2020 brought together telecom professionals and entrepreneurs. They were asked how mobile would change Africa. Their prediction touched every aspect of the economy and society: entrepreneurial businesses, healthcare solutions, education, government transparency, greater safety on the streets and homes, and particularly for women. Text-to-speech will allow easier communication across languages. Some make a good argument that mobile devices are so important to the future that Africa will develop a large, thriving local industry to provide those devices. One measure of the digital opportunity is the fact that companies like Google, Microsoft, IBM, Cisco, HP, and others are moving quickly and investing to establish their presence in Africa. Let me talk about collaboration. The difference between being a world resource and a world market is still in play in Africa. There is a daunting list of problems, and the solutions will not come quickly. 3 of the most significant issues are still corruption, unfortunately, bureaucracy, and the lack of a sufficient number of competent leadership. This is where the ALA, although small, plays a very important role in the future of Africa. Africa still ranks at the bottom of the world's ease of doing business survey. Poverty is pernicious and entrenched. Half the population of Africa still lives on $1.25 a day. Security remains a question. While transfers of power have been more peaceful than in the past, the threat of violence stalks the perimeters of political change. To address these issues, the collaboration I'm talking about must evolve from the old philanthropic model to one of shared value. It's a recognition that the success of business and the success of communities are a single, inseparable issue. Creating shared value demands a new and more collaborative connection among the points of progress: businesses, NGOs, governments, and the local communities themselves. We are seeing that kind of collaboration much more than we have in the past. But if you look at the opportunity to build a better, stronger, safer, more successful Africa as the summit of a mountain, we are just coming out of the foothills. Let me share with you a quick story of the power of shared value. This is a Coke story, but our business model has historically relied on big trucks with big loads delivering to big outlets. In many countries with developing infrastructure, that simply doesn't work. Rural roads can be too muddy, neighborhood streets can be too narrow. So we set up more than 3,200 small distribution centers that employed about 14,000 people and generate more than $600 million in revenues. We call them micro distribution centers, or MDCs. Instead of trucks, the entrepreneurs who own these MDCs use bicycles, motorcycles, and carts. And in some key markets such as Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Mozambique, we rely on MDCs for a significant amount of our distribution. The shared value there is obvious. For Coca-Cola, these small operations are a way to get our products to consumers in areas we might never reach. For the MDC owners and their communities, they mean jobs and income and local stability. One of our MDC owners is Rosemary Nyeri. I think I have a slide of Rosemary. There she is. Rosemary is an amazing woman. Starting with nothing, she has been running an MDC in Nairobi for 10 years. In those 10 years, she has gone from 1 employee to 16 employees. 2 have been able to build their own houses with their income. She's using her profits to invest in real estate. In 2009, we announced that our goal is to have women like Rosemary own half of all new micro distribution centers. And we're in the process of delivering against that objective. Rosemary also figures prominent in another Coca-Cola effort we launched last year called 5 by 20. We will empower 5 million women entrepreneurs worldwide by 2020. Small distributors like Rosemary, but also recyclers in India and fruit farmers in the Philippines. In closing, the future never arrives fully formed. It comes together in pieces, some according to plan, others random and unexpected. It's been a long and uneven process to get to where we are. And the next steps will certainly bring setbacks along with gains, triumphs along with mistakes. One mistake we cannot make is allow a vibrant future to be obscured by old assumptions and stereotypes. This is a new Africa, stronger, better, more hopeful than anything we've seen in the past. As part of a company and as a son of Africa, I have the great advantage of seeing progress and opportunity from inside. Certainly, we see the obstacles, but more importantly, we also see beyond them. Those who will be a part of the continent's future will show that kind of vision. They will move now, move quickly, and move with the confidence that although uneven at times, Africa is the world's next great economic story. The music of Africa is changing. The question is, who will master the dance? I thank you.